Logano leads down the back straightaway. Keselowski's in line. Now he turns him. Both Team Penske cars crash. Keselowski is up in a ball of flame, up into the outside wall. He'll take Kyle Busch with him. Everybody now racing off the corner in a horrific crash on the final lap of the Daytona 500.
Caution is on the speedway. Caution is on the speedway. We'll wait and see who was the race leader when the caution flag came out.
And we are now getting word from NASCAR. The winner of the 63rd running of the Daytona 500 is indeed Michael McDowell. They can go ahead and celebrate now.
I'm so thankful. Such a great way to get a first victory at Daytona 500. Are you kidding me? Man. Oh, man.
And that was the winner, Michael McDowell, the winner of the Great American Race, his first ever career win in 358 starts. This is Splash and Go. Steve Letarte here, Dale Jarrett, Jeff Burton. So, guys, a lot to unpack from 500 miles from the high banks of Daytona. We've seen a lot of Daytona 500s. Everyone looks different. This one looked different, but we have to start with the guy who is standing in victory lane at the end, Michael McDowell, first career win. DJ, I'm going to you. You've stood there before. You've won this race multiple times. How amazing was it for this young man to go to victory lane?
Yeah, just an incredible feat there for Michael McDowell. You know, he's been at this for a long time, and we all knew that when you go to these super speedway races that he has been a factor many times, just could never put it all together. And the more that you saw him in the mix there, and as the laps were winding down, you knew in some way, shape, or form he was going to have a hand in who was going to win the Daytona 500. But could he make the right moves? And obviously he did. And this is a life-changing experience. I can tell you from that first Daytona 500, so many things changed after I won in '93 that it was just unbelievable. And Michael McDowell is going to reap those rewards too. And just a hard-fought, well-earned victory. He ran up front pretty much the entire night after they went back to racing after the accident and the rain. So he did a great job, and it's always nice to see someone that you're not really expecting when you start the race that might end up in victory lane get that opportunity and take advantage of the situation.
So, Jeff, I don't want to call it a surprise winner because he runs up front. Heck, I had him in my fantasy line, but a long shot. 71 in Vegas, right? So the booker in Vegas, who normally has great odds, they had him as a long shot. The long shot went to victory lane.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, he is a long shot, but this isn't completely unexpected. I mean, this is an upset, but it's not, a huge upset. For people in the industry that really pay attention to these races, you see Michael McDowell, you see Front Row Motorsports running well in these types of races. They put themselves in position. They took good speed down to Daytona. I think you need to really give them credit for the speed they had at Daytona, the job Michael McDowell did, the job the pit crew did. They all did it to put themselves in position to be there to win that race. Some other drivers and teams weren't able to do that. So I just think you got to give that team credit. I don't think it's fair to say, well, it's Daytona, Talladega, you get these big wrecks. Yeah, you do get those things, but he was there the entire race. They put themselves in position. They didn't make mistakes. They did everything they needed to be there when it counted. I mean, that's where he was right there. Nobody gave him that. He earned that track position. Just a great job all night by those guys. And it was an upset, but it's not, it's not a complete total upset just because of how well and the effort that they put in to these races at Daytona and Talladega.
Capitalize when you can. You mentioned big wrecks. I really think big wrecks and the early big wreck, lap 14. We expect big accidents, but DJ, this wreck, so many cars so early, I think changed the feel of this race. Every speedway race has a different feel, almost like a living thing. This one changed dramatically early on.
Yeah, and mainly because it happened at the very front of the pack. You had Eric Almirola sitting there pushing his teammate at the time, Kevin Harvick, and seemingly just everything kind of going along as usual early in the race. Even though they were too wide, it seemed rather calm. But just one push by Christopher Bell that was a little too hard, maybe at the time, especially for the time of the race, ended up creating this huge accident, of which Michael McDowell was a part of also. His crew did a terrific job. Let's not, Jeff, you mentioned it took everybody to make this happen. His crew did a nice job of repairing the right side of that car in particular from some damage that he received in that accident. But it took out so many of the challengers that we thought were going to be there. Ryan Blaney, Eric Almirola had obviously won one of the duels, and so many other cars and drivers that we thought were going to be a part of the mix. And all of a sudden, as a driver that missed that, your mindset has changed completely. Now it's about, okay, what do we have to do? We've got a lot fewer cars and drivers to deal with here. How do we get to the end of this 500-mile race and put ourselves in a position to be a factor in this? And so we saw a lot of jockeying throughout the race, pit stops, and a lot of racing at the end of the two stages. But certainly after having an accident like that, a 5-hour rain delay, your mindset as a driver goes completely different as to how do I give myself a chance in this shortened field.
Well, one driver that avoided that accident, and I had him as the favorite because, he's won the last 2 Daytona 500s with Denny Hamlin. He misses the accident, Jeff, at lap 14, and then he takes control of the race. I mean, basically, in my mind, the race is never guaranteed to win, but if he had position, he was kind of leading and dictating the pack. So as I put to you, Jeff, Denny Hamlin dominates until late pit stops. Take me through. What did you see? Where did Denny Hamlin lose control of this race? Because in those closing laps, he was at the back of that lead pack.
Yeah, listen, it's a difficult call to make, a when to pit, and it's not that easy. A lot of people think you want to pick with a great big group because that helps your speed when you leave pit road. I completely disagree with that. I think you're better off pitting with a smaller group. But with Denny and his team, they waited a long time to get on pit road. That allowed some energy to be built by the other groups, and he came out and was essentially all by himself. The Toyotas pitted, and they just didn't have enough people. So when the pack caught him, they were going so much faster. There was just no way he could keep up. And in that, and I also want to say this, in all of that, Joey Logano, he actually passed Kevin Harvick getting onto pit road. His pit road entrance speed was incredible. If you go back and watch how Joey Logano just left everybody behind him and then also passed Kevin Harvick getting onto pit road, that gave him the lead. That put him in control of the race. So green flag pit stops completely switched it. It took all the momentum from Denny Hamlin, put him in the back, and Joey Logano went and took it, and now he's controlling the race. And all that happened with green flag pit stops.
Yeah, the execution on and off pit road, 2 tires, gas only, when you come. I'm with you, Jeff. I like pitting early, and I don't care about the size of the group, but I want to be one of the first cars on pit road. That was always kind of the telltale for me. It cycled the wrong way. You mentioned Joey Logano passing Kevin Harvick. That's such a big deal, DJ, because then those last 20 laps, single file around the top, I started on my couch, then I was standing, then I was pacing, then I did because I knew it was coming. We have seen this before. We listened to the Fox broadcast. Jeff Gordon, Clint Boyer kept positioning. Who's going to make the move? I was shocked they waited to the last lap. I thought we were going to see somebody mid-pack make a move with 5 or 6 to go. I guess the amount of cars. But take me through those closing laps and take me through the big move on the backstretch that led to the fiery crash.
Yeah, well, I'm going to back up just a second to add a little bit on those pit stops, those green flag pit stops. Kevin Harvick did a masterful job in waiting and not allowing the Toyotas to maybe pit whenever the Fords were going to have that advantage of everybody being together. He waited till turn 3, drug the rest of his Ford teammates with him to pit road then, and the Toyotas had no chance there. And then at that time, then the Chevrolets were going to make sure that they left those Toyotas out there. They knew who the best car and driver in this was, and that was Denny Hamlin, and they had to find a way to put him at the back, and they were able to do that. Then when they came back out, Denny had a chance at one time there to get himself in around 5th or 6th. He tried to get a little too much there and ended up at the back of that line. So this leaves Joey Logano, who did that great job of getting on and off pit road, in control. And I think Harvick was sitting there thinking that he might get a little help from Brad Keselowski or Michael McDowell whenever those moves started. But I really was surprised that the Chevrolets didn't pull out and start making things happen. And I think Denny Hamlin alluded to it in his interview after the race that he thought once they started mixing it up, if they went then he was going to be able to make some things happen. That never materialized, and it kind of left him hanging there. And then it was up to Brad Keselowski, who drug Michael McDowell back, got a big run on Harvick down the back straightaway and got to second. And then on the last lap, you wondered how aggressive Brad was going to be. I thought about this for a second, how aggressive he may be in trying to pass his teammate. But then I thought, Brad's never won the 500. He's looking to do that. He's talked about that a lot. He was going to do whatever it took. Unfortunately, Joey went to make that block, and then all hell kind of broke loose from that point. Some really hard hits. Glad everybody was okay. But it made me sit and think and wonder, is blocking really the right thing to do at that point in time? Because we've seen over the last few races that this hasn't worked out for the leader of the race to go block. I'm almost to the point that I think, okay, if somebody makes that move, let's let them have that spot and hope that somebody comes to push me, and that gives me a better chance to win. But it was highly entertaining, those last 5 laps.
I'd like to jump in on that. I agree with you 1,000%. You know what tells me that you're right in saying that is last year's Daytona 500. Go back and watch what Denny Hamlin did. He didn't make that block and get himself wrecked. He lived to fight another 2 corners. And then he ends up winning the race. I think you're exactly right. I think it's so hard to make that decision to not block. There's a right time to block and a wrong time to block. When they're coming that fast, you're putting yourself and them at jeopardy. Very difficult call, but just go back and watch last year's Daytona 500. Denny Hamlin did not put himself in that spot. He gave it up. He side drafted the heck out of them to get them pulled back, and he ends up winning the race. So I think it's a great point, DJ, and it's actually on my mind too. Listen, I've been the guy that blocked and caused a big wreck, and it's going to happen again at Talladega, and it's going to happen again at Daytona. But I really do think you've got to really start thinking about what is the smartest thing to do in that situation.
Well, it was a long day of racing, a long day with the rain, but in the end, a fiery crash on the final lap put Michael McDowell in victory lane. The 36-year-old from Glendale, Arizona, became the 40th driver to win the Daytona 500. It was an amazing day, an amazing week of racing at Daytona, but all the racing wasn't at the Super Bowl of auto racing, the World Center of Speed at Daytona. About 40 or 50 miles away, there was some Supercross over in Orlando where we saw an unbelievable gritty performance out of a 250 rider. Here's this week's Motorsports Junction moment.
Oh, look at the cross-up by Christian Craig. That was a perfectly timed pass. You can see Jet Lawrence popping into your screen there, and he's had some... Oh!
Whoa, he's down! Christian Craig got all out of shape, and he is down hard.
He comes out of the corner. Everything's good. Oh, and he comes up just a little bit short, and he high sides and gets kicked off the side of the bike.
I think he knows that it is not good.
They're going to give it a go. Right now, Christian Craig is on the line, but he was in a lot of pain when I was back at the truck, and it's going to be a rough night for him. But, hey, when you're in a championship position like he is, 6 points down, you got to go for it.
Checkered flag out for Christian Craig. The story now gets a little better. He's going through to the main. We cannot emphasize enough what a phenomenal effort this is from Christian Craig.
Still doing what exactly he needs to do. He's going to be able to have a 2-month break, 10 weeks off, to be able to heal up and come into Salt Lake City and give it one last effort to try to get this championship.
You see there an image of Christian Craig's hand. The story comes that perhaps, I mean, I'm not sure what the damage is, guys, but it's a gruesome accident. As you see, a gruesome look at that hand. But you talk about a gritty performance, wrecking in your heat, winning the LCQ, coming back in the main. Our friend Lee Diffie, Ricky Carmichael on the call. So, DJ, I'm going to ask you, just as an athlete, riding, performing with injury, how impressive was the performance?
That was just an incredible story. And for this young man to go through what he did there, it's just amazing. You know, we can talk about, Jeff, we both raced with injuries, driving a car, but doing what he did on that bike with the jumps, everything he had to go through, a new hero for me. I mean, what this young man did, just incredible strength. And when you talk about athletes having mind over matter, that's a perfect example. And he did everything he needed to do. I don't know how he did it, how he withstood all the pain, but he made it happen. He's given himself the chance to win the championship in a little over 2 months.
Yeah, I was so impressed sitting there watching that. I'm like, there's no way that he can do that. And he ran that LCQ and ended up winning that, and then goes out and runs third in the feature. I didn't think there's any way you could do that. It was amazing to me. It shows you, though, with preparation, right, with desire and preparation, those two things connected, what they can allow you to do. He had to do it. He knew he had to do it, but he was prepared to do it physically as well as emotionally, and it was just awesome to see somebody step up. I love seeing people step up in big moments. That's what sports are about. That's why you watch them, right? You want to see those big moments, and you see a guy when he's down and get himself back up. That's what I love about sports, and it was so fun to watch that Saturday night.
Well, great performances build a fan base. I have my 450 favorites, but now I have a 250 favorite as well. Christian Craig will be one I will be watching after that gritty performance. Well, guys, the Daytona 500 is in the rearview mirror. Looking ahead, we have the road course at Daytona about a week away, but we're going to come back on Wednesday. We're going to have Parker Kligerman, KP, Burton. I think you're going to be back for another Splash and Go where we look at the road course. It's been a lot of fun. The season's underway. It's going to be a great season in NASCAR. You're watching another episode of Splash and Go.
Hey Motorsports fans, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe before you go for all the latest news and highlights across motorsports.